To the video, and if you haven't seen the first part of this video, I suggest you check out on the channel because that's where it started. In this video, I'm continuing to reupholster, recover, redo completely an IKEA Strandmon chair. In the previous video, I broke down the chair, so I took all of the staples out, took the different parts of the chair and broke it down completely to see what I was working with. So in this video, I am going to be taking you through the parts that I've ordered and where I am and starting to hopefully put this thing back together. You can see here I bought some more of this, I don't even know what it's called, I just searched for like seat base material. Or seat lining. It's the bit that went on some of the bases, so it actually went on this part here because this is where the cushion cover sits. Well, in fact, the cushion cover sits over all of this, but this is where that black material sits, and I couldn't reuse the last one because where it's stapled to the base, it's quite thin material, so it actually ripped quite easily. So I bought some more of that. It's very, very cheap. I think it works out like €2.40 for a metre or yard, or whatever the measurement was of it, and I don't need that much. I bought 2 yards just in case. It was about a tenner including postage, so that was pretty cheap. So I got that through, and of course that's not all I got through because I got the vegan leather that I'm using for my chair covering. The reason I went with this, I was looking at lamb's leather, but they come in actual hide size, and so to try and get the right number of skins or whatever I would need in the right size, it actually became a bit of a problem to try and work out exactly what I needed and make sure I didn't have different colors and stuff like that. So I went with the vegan leather option because I could choose the exact length and size that I would need for this, so hopefully I've ordered enough. And this is the covering that I'm going to be going for. So it's quite nice on the other side, it's quite nice to work with. It's got a bit of pull in it as well, not massive amounts, but just enough that I think will be really useful when it comes to pulling it round and stapling it down. So I think that it will work really nicely, like I said, with my chairs that I've got. I like brown. That's weird, but you know what I mean. So that's all the material, and I've got a ton of this. I can't remember the amount I got. It was something like 6 yards. I think it was 6 yards I got, so hopefully again that is enough. I did a measurement of the biggest part, so the biggest part was something like, the individual sheet was 80 by 90 that I needed, and this came in metrics, it was something like 1.36 meters, and then by the yard, whatever that is in meters. So I tried to work out what I would need, piecing the pieces of fabric down in my head and tried to work out, so I overestimated, I hope that I've got enough. I think in total, with all of the things I've bought, and I'll show you the other little bits and pieces I've got to try and make my life easier and to try and do the finishing touches, hopefully, I think the total is under €200, and these are the other things I've got. So I've got these, which are like, I called them leather pins before, I don't know what their official name is, this is the French, I don't know, clos tapis, whatever, clos tapis, you know, whatever. So I got them in, if it will focus, in like a black, because I think the black on the leather will be really nice. So these will go, I don't know if I need 1,000 of them, but either way, they were fairly cheap as well, and so they'll go around some of the edging where there were staples before, because I think that will give it a quite nice, like, old school look, which is perfect. I also got a better stitch unpicker, or stitch cutter, whatever they're called. These are really useful because when you're taking apart each individual piece to then mimic on the new material, scissors just aren't very good. You don't want to use scissors. This is a couple of quid. It's only I think €3 or something this was, and it makes a huge difference. So 100% get yourself one of these. You won't regret it at all. Likewise, fabric scissors. Don't use kitchen scissors. I've tried that before, did that with the last project in my car, and it's really hard. Fabric scissors make so much of a difference, and again, I think these were about £5, so it's worth spending the €8 I think it cost me for the two, just to make sure that you get a decent cut. It just works so much better. I didn't buy these this time. I've had them obviously for a bit, but pins, you'll need a ton of pins. So get yourself some pins. Again, they're cheap as anything, but I'd also recommend a pin cushion because it's just easier to get them in and out. But yeah, get yourself pins and a pin cushion. Yes. So I'll quickly take you through what I've done so far with this like seat base part, and then you can see the general process that I go through. I mean, if you missed the first part, I'm not any good at this. I'm literally an amateur. I've never recovered a chair before, but I did recover a seat in my car, and I used the same process of taking it apart and putting it back together and stuff. So I'm just adopting the same process, and I can't imagine it wouldn't be this way. So this is the process I use. These are the pieces upside down that sat on this bit. So this is the seat base part. You don't see any of the sides of the seat base or anything because they're covered. You literally just see the seat top, which is where the cushion cover sits, and then you just see this edging. That's it. So you see these parts mainly. And so there was a bit that went round the edge of this, which I've unpicked the stitches on, and you can see this is where it's torn on the edges. So that's why I got new bit of this. But you can see here where the stitching goes across this part. It's folded up probably about 10 mil and then is stitched all the way along this seam there. So for me, the first thing I always do is unpick everything, but then I label them as well, so I know exactly which part goes to which. It kind of helps me. And then what I'll then do is pin this original part to the leather. So I pin this to the new material all the way around the outside, so I can stretch it right out so it goes to the right size. So any curls up like this, try and make sure I mean, ironing it would probably be a better idea. If you ironed it flat, it would make a big difference. I obviously didn't, but that would make a difference. So I'd probably recommend doing that. And then just pin it on each corner first. Make sure it's obviously stretched out, but not too stretched out, because if the material's got any stretch in it, like this one kind of does, you don't want it to then shrink back and then you've made your piece a different size. So you just want it to be straight, pulled out, and then pin it all the way around the edges, and then you can cut out your piece. Like magic, this is what it looks like. It's like Blue Peter, if you don't get that reference. So that's what the new piece will look like. Old piece, new piece, perfect. And then I did the same with this material, so just put this on top of the new material, pinned it down, cut it out, so then I have replica parts for these two pieces. So for the seat base, all I now need to do is the piece that goes all the way around the edge there, and then I should have all the pieces needed to start to stitch this new piece to this new piece, or actually this new piece, because this is the new piece I've got. So yeah, I've got this piece, these two bits are the new ones I've got, and I will now do exactly the same for the outside bit, and then this bit is ready to be stitched together. By the magic of theatre, I've done the base bit as well, so it's kind of all the three pieces I need for this base unit of the chair. See how I've literally just pinned into place. I'm not going to keep it like this, it was just for illustrational purposes. But you can see this is the top bit, and this is the other top bit, and this is the side bit, and this is how it kind of goes. So the next step for this would be, in fact, stitching this to this is the most easy part, because that's the bit that needs to be done first, and then this will come second. So what I'll have to do is about a 10 mil gap between each part, so 10 mil here, 10 mil here. So that would involve, if I can do it one-handed, folding it over like that on the inside. So I can try and do this and illustrate how it would look in the end. 1 second. So excusing the pin in the way, I couldn't hold it any other way. So yeah, it would be folded over in the back. Obviously I would stitch it all backside first, so inside out. So all of this will be inside out, stitched all the way around there, and then that will start to come together in the right places. So of course I will flip this over, pin it all down, mark out exactly the 10 mil all the way around, because obviously right now it's just kind of pieced together, but you can start to get a sense of what it will look like as you start to go through, and you can start to see that this will be the base, and that'll be all sorted. So in this video, I will concentrate more on just getting all of the pieces, the individual pieces, cut out and take you through the process of what that is, like I've done now, and then we can see kind of how it's starting to come together. See, this is another piece. It's kind of a hidden piece that's on the back, and so what I tend to do is, in fact, I've done it on the other side here, but what I normally do is do it the other way around, so I do it on the other side and then cut around it that way. You can see just starting to pin it round the edges, just to make sure that I have it all pinned down so it's nice and flat. and I will continue to do that with every single piece. And I tend to then, like I said, mark each individual one so I know where they go. I'd say that this is probably going to be the most complicated one to do, the cushion cover itself. The stitching in general isn't that bad. It's, you know, single stitch on like a 10mm fold there, so it's a 10mm fold over, and then a stitch there, so you just fold it over that way and stitch the two together along the seam. So I'll just replicate that, and the same with the edging here too. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to unstitch. I'm going to try and reuse this zip because I don't have another one. So that's where it starts to get more complicated, and especially because we have this material which should be fine to reuse, and I can keep the zip on this side, I hope, but then I've got to unstitch everything around here. So I've also got the bead edge that I've got to redo in the leather. Yeah, so this is probably going to be the most complicated part, and I might leave it till the end, mainly because it scares me. Don't really know how I'm going to do that. I'm sure it'll be fine when I start unpicking it, but it's the most complicated looking one. It doesn't have that many parts when you think about it. It's got 1, 2, the bead, 3, 4, I think 4 individual pieces, plus that black part and the zip. It's just about trying to make sure it all comes together, because you've got to make sure you understand where the seams go and where you stitch, because otherwise it just won't be tight enough. It won't be like really tight around the cushion, which is exactly what you want. You don't want any folds or anything like that, especially when you've got this sort of material, because it's shinier like the leather. You start to see all the folds in it, so the accuracy on this is obviously super important. Also started unpicking this back section, so it's part of the main back here. So again, that's another one that will have a big impact as well. Like, it will look really good once I start to get these bits back together. So there are only, I think, 4 pieces of this as well, but they're fairly simple. So you've got the main back bit that comes all the way up to about here. You've got a bead that runs around the back. You've got the back section that runs down the back, and then you've got 2 caps that just sit in the corners here on either side. So that's not too, he says, complicated. And they're quite nice pieces to draw out as well, because they're fairly simple shapes. So I should be able to pin those out quite nicely. I'll do those on the floor so it's nice and flat, and then I can start cutting them out. And then, like I said, with this bead, you can see, and I'll reuse the rope that they use. It's like a plastic rope, and so I'll cut a piece of material out that matches this size. If it focuses, so it matches on these sides. So I'll take I'll unpick all this, lay it out, and then replicate the exact same width and length of leather, and then I'll put the bead or the little rope that goes in the middle, pin it up, and then stitch all the way along the rope or the bead you have there, and then you have this material or this bead that you get, but in the leather format. And then all that they've done with this is take that, and you can see that they've pressed it between. So if you look on the inside, you get a real sense of what they've done. So you've got this middle bit, which is the bead or the rope that sits in the middle. They've then pressed that, again, a 10mm offset there, folded them all together, and then they'll just run it through the machine like that, and just run it all the way along the 10mm along the bead. So that should be okay. That looks fairly all right. I've noticed there's a bit of elastic in here, so I'm going to have to again try and replicate that. I think that's just to go around the corners to keep this bunching. You see where they've got the bunching there? That's to go around a part of the corner, so it's the curve. So I will equally, there's not a massive section of it, it's only 15 centimeters, 10 centimeters. So what I'll do is I will take that out and stitch onto the top of the section I've got as well. So it's replicating those, so I'll probably start with that bit next, unpicking, drawing out all the bits. see here, I've taken the rope section, spread it out across as close to the edge as I can, because I want to maximise the material I've got, and pinned it all down. And then I'll cut round it, and then I should have this bit that I can then flip over and stitch right along here, in theory. Like I said though, I've never done this before, so I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just making up as I go along. So take that with a pinch of salt. I just figure that it seems like the thing that you should do, to be honest, and I can't imagine that you would do it any other way. So that's what I'm doing, and let's see how it turns out. What else are you going to do? How else are you going to get the shape? How else are you going to... Anyway, let's see how it comes out. I don't have the right thread for the main stuff, but because this is just holding this rope in, I don't think it massively matters, because I'm going to be going over again with the main stitching. So I'm going to give this an attempt just to run it along to see if I can make it work. So I've basically put the feet right up against where the rope runs through, and then I'm just going to try and keep these bits folded exactly how they should as it runs through. So give it a go. It's the next day, and obviously I got carried away and completely ignored what I said I was going to do. And by that I mean I said I was going to cut everything out and then start putting it together, but I didn't do that. But there's one massive reason for that, is because I didn't want to forget exactly how these certain bits went together, because there are certain parts that I know that I just would. For example, this side piece has this rope bead running all the way down the side, so I want to do all that at once. This is why I haven't continued to unpick it, and this is why I haven't done this piece yet, because I want to do it all at once, just so I know that it goes back together in the same way, because otherwise it's hard to remember. And so this is what I've done of the back so far. So it's got some elastic on the side here that ruffles it up together, and this isn't going to be viewable, so you don't need to worry about the stitching here, because all this does is the elastic helps pull this top corner together, which means that it covers this sort of curve in the top. Now I also then stitched this bead onto the top, which actually looks pretty good, I'm not going to lie. I was really pleased with that. It looks almost professional. I mean, let's not go nuts, but it's for me, it's pretty good. Now I've got one of these staple guns, and there's no staples in it. I need to go actually get some staples. This was a cheapy jobby. Again, try and get the best one you can afford, but you don't need to go nuts. But you just want it to go through the wood, and yeah, industrial sort of staple gun is ideal. So yeah, I ignored my initial plan mainly for those reasons, but what I'm going to need to do now is this back piece is the piece that runs down the back of this section here, and then pretty much I think there are a couple of bits like these little caps here that go on the corners to cut out, and then I can start to staple down, pull really tight and staple down that whole back section, and that's pretty much that back section kind of done. So like I said on the previous video, most of this is kind of stapling. So once you've got the pieces together for the main sections, it's stapling it to the base. So I need to go and get some more staples and make some more progress there. But in the meantime, what I will do is cut out some of these other sections that I put on the floor. So these are the other pieces that sit within the side. So like I mentioned on that other side one with a bead on it, this is one of the other parts of that, and this is one of the other parts of that. I'm trying to again maximize the amount of pieces I can get from my materials so I don't run out, but they're the ones that I'm going to be doing next, and the other side one, which means that I can then start to piece together that whole side. I did get this piece together though as well, so I stitched all of those ones together, so the base is all now done. That's all, like I said, I've stapled the side bits as well, so that's all stapled in. So that base is now complete. A bit of a pain because it has got lots of intricate kind of corners, so it was fairly difficult to do, I'm not going to lie, but I'm happy with it, and that's being covered with the cushion as well, so it's not 100% just because the edges are really difficult, but I'm happy with the way that's come out. So with that piece there and that piece there, which should be done soon, so I'll do that in the next video, we will then start to be able to really piece the bits together. So in the next video, what I'll do is I will try and finish, well, all of it really. I think this should only take 3 parts, hopefully, he says. So I'll start off camera, cutting out the rest of the pieces, because you don't need to know how to cut out the pieces. I've shown you it's pretty simple. And then we can start piecing together I'll finish the rest of the back, which again is just one more piece to sew on. And then I can go to the most difficult parts, I think, which are the 2 sides. And once I've done one, I think I'll be a bit more confident with it. But it's starting to come together. So if you're enjoying the progress of this project that I've taken on with no experience whatsoever, I should reiterate, I've never done this before. I'm not an expert. I can't sew. I'm literally just giving it a go. So hope you enjoyed it. If you like this sort of project, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video where we can start to hopefully see this thing come together as a new chair. Brilliant. Anyway, peace.